What is up, Noel Nation? I am Jesse from Plant the Spear, joined by Michael, my co-host.
What's up?
Man, Michael, what a game, my man. I mean, Florida State rolls out the freshman Brock Glenn. It wasn't pretty. 16-6. That is not what I expected. But here's the thing, man. Defense wins championships. And Florida State, honestly, bro, they have a championship level defense. It was absolutely lights out tonight. No one has held Louisville to 6 points this season. Florida State dominated this game on the defensive side of the ball. The offense, it wasn't great, man. I mean, the offense, the receivers didn't really help Brock Glenn, the freshman quarterback, out. But that doesn't matter.
Right.
Florida State is your 2023 ACC champions. Man, I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina, coming to you live. Michael is in Orlando. I'm so ecstatic. I'm so excited. The rain started coming down late towards emptying the stadium. Luckily, it held off to the end of the game. But, man, just what an exciting time to be a Florida State Seminole. I'm telling you, man, the party here in Charlotte is just getting started. It is an absolute, just fan fest, having a good time here. Kind of, we'll throw the L's down a little bit there. I actually had some Miami fans that sat right behind me. They were a little sad that we won this one. But, man,
I bet they were.
Exactly. They were sad. So, Florida State got it done just in an impressive fashion, man. I mean, when you talk about Florida State bringing in a freshman quarterback who's never started a game in his entire career, it wasn't the offense, though, that we need to talk about. It's the defense, and this is a championship-level defense. I think this is a win. You go into a neutral site with a third-string quarterback who's never started a game in his career. You get a defensive win, a team win. You overcame it wasn't a blocked punt, but a special teams mishaps.
Basically, yeah.
And you won. I mean, man, I just can't say enough about this team. This is a team win. This is a big team win.
Yes.
And I feel like Florida State, first off, shout out to winning the 2023 ACC Championship. It had to piss them off to hand Florida State the championship trophy.
I bet they did.
After we thought he had to be mad after we dogged their conference, but we ended up getting the win. We won the ACC Championship, man. I'm just so excited. I am so excited. Here in Charlotte, North Carolina, you can probably hear the noise in the background. I was at the stadium earlier. We followed the Martian Chiefs out of the stadium. Such a fun time to watch this team get the ACC Championship and win this game. Michael, give me some of your thoughts. I know you watched it on TV. I was in the stadium.
Yeah.
Just give me some of your thoughts on this game, man.
Well, first, let me start it this way, Jesse. If I had told you that Florida State would only have 12 first downs, go 2 for 16 on third down, 0 for 1 fourth down, 219 total yards, 55 yards passing, 164 yards rushing, 3 penalties for 20 yards, how much money would you have put down that they would win that game?
Not a dollar.
Not a thing. I wouldn't even put a penny down.
Not a dollar at all, man.
Exactly.
And that is insane. You just have to ignore the stat sheet on this one.
Yes.
I mean, because at some point, when you talk about this team and this win and how they got this win, it was a defensive battle in this game. And Florida State's defense, they say defense wins championships. I mean, what better display do you have tonight than Florida State deserves to be in the playoffs with a championship-level defense? When you talk about a Louisville offense who was ranked top 20, top 25 in pretty much almost every category.
A Louisville offense
shut them down.
Yes, a Louisville offense that was averaging 33 points a game, bro. 33 points. No one all season. You go back and look at Louisville's schedule. No one has done this. The worst game they played was when they scored 13 points against NC State. That was their lowest scoring game, was against NC State. And Florida State came out and took the game from a defensive standpoint from them. I mean, just completely dominated. like not even they couldn't run their offense regularly. They had to resort to like trick plays because they weren't getting like their normal stuff. I mean, yeah, the defense gave up 2 big runs, and really on that last run, that last big run they gave up, it was only because if you go back and watch it, Shaheem Brown took a terrible angle it was his tackle to make. If he makes that if he takes the right angle and makes that tackle, it's a 5-yard gain at most. Takes a terrible angle, dude breaks out, gets down, but then of course they lock down in the red zone. They only give up a field goal, which was huge. And then kudos to, yes, we know the defensive line was, I mean, just fantastic. But you know what really kind of saved the game? It was Tatum Bethune. He had 2 plays back to back. 2 plays back to back. The first one where he rips the ball out of the guy's hand, the tight end's hand on that little rail route, and he gets it out, so it's an incomplete. And then, of course, the pick. They go right back to the tight end on that little seam post route, and he picks it off. He stayed with him. He got his head turned around. There were like 2 or 3 other throws that we could have picked off. But, man, this defense, I mean, just shut them down. Just shut the offensive genius. You know, we talked about it in the previous show that Jeff Brom is an offensive genius. And man, I honestly believe any other school that played Louisville right here would have gotten lit up. But this defense,
oh yeah, man, yeah.
Defense.
That defensive line was absolutely dominant tonight. Tatum Bethune had a big game tonight. I understand Lawrence Philly out of the Wildcat really kind of got the offense going here, but I have to give my player of the game to Braden Fisk.
Oh,
what an absolute dominant
man.
Performance. And man, I'm telling you, dude, it was so exciting. I don't know how it sounded on TV. And I'll be honest, the stadium wasn't necessarily full.
Yeah, you could tell
all the way around. But, man, I mean, I feel like Florida State had a crowd advantage tonight. We were loud. Yep. My voice is probably going to be gone tomorrow. I'm just yelling. I'm war chanting.
I love it.
I'm slapping the seats and everything. It was loud. And, man, I'm just so proud of this team. I'm so proud of this coaching staff. They deserve it. They really did battle hard in a game that I felt like, if they could overcome this adversity, if they could play to a championship level on defense, and they can win with a third-string quarterback, and you think back to Ohio State, you know, in 2014 where they won with their third-string quarterback, I honestly don't know what Cardell Jones was, but I don't know if he was a true freshman. And I feel like when Brock came in tonight, you immediately felt like, man, I just hope they can get this done. And the fact that they were able to get it done with a dominant defensive performance and a run game that was able to get things going. You know, it was tough sledding early when you talk about the run game. They really couldn't get a lot going. They didn't throw the ball a lot earlier. I thought they should have thrown it a little bit more to loosen the defense up. I thought the receivers didn't have a great game, if we're being honest. You know what I mean? They didn't help out a freshman quarterback there. But, man, I mean, like I joke, man, like I make fun of this, but if I'm Adam Fuller, like I'm putting my what's on the dais in the press conference, because you have to respect what he was able to do.
Pay that man.
Exactly,
I don't care what you got to do. Him and Mike Norvell, they deserve some big extensions this offseason, man. Give them men that money.
Exactly, man. To be able to go in there and shut out a Louisville offense that was ranked, I believe, in like the top 20 in advanced metrics. We had talked about it in our preview. Top 20, and to hold him to 6 points.
6 points. And
just
not only just held them to 6 points, but held them to a total of 188 yards. 188 yards. And
that's
111
ridiculous.
of them came from passing. They had 77 yards rushing, only 2.3 yards on 34 carries. Bro.
Man, I don't know how many sacks they had tonight, but they had some in really big situations. The turnovers were key, and that's something we talked about in the preview, that if you can win the turnover battle against Louisville, you can win this game. And
7 sacks. 7 sacks.
Unreal. That's 13 sacks in the last 2 weeks. Again, you talk about the playoffs coming up and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Man, defense wins championships. And like, here's the thing, man. You think back to a few years ago when it was LSU Alabama, and I believe they won something like 9-6.
9-6. Yeah, that's right.
So you can't keep a team out because they didn't have a great offensive performance, because they showed the ability to have a championship level defense. And you have to think about this too. Tate Rodemaker is in concussion protocol. It's not like he's got a season-ending injury. He's going to be back next game. And on top of that, you're going to have Darrell Jackson in the next game now, because he is available to play after this game. So this is going to be a really huge boost for Florida State. And, man, I think this is enough to get in the playoffs, because you showed absolute dominant level defense. And let's take just a few comments here. So we have Terry that says that all you could hear on the radio were the fans. And, man, I will say, like, I will say, man, we were pretty thick in here. We were pretty deep, and it was fun, man. I love the game being in Charlotte. I love Bank of America Stadium. I'm glad the weather held off. It really didn't start picking up the rain until the end of the game, but, man, I feel like we were loud. Like I said, I had some Miami fans behind me, so I was giving them a little bit of what the whole entire time. But, man, we were throwing the L's down and everything, and, like, man, it's just, I mean, it's so huge for this team because we talked about it in the preview where if you lost this game, you felt like it was a little bit of an empty season. And so Florida State to go out and win this game the way that they did, just they earned it tonight. I mean, you cannot take this championship away from them. They really, really earned it tonight. And I'm just so proud of this team. I'm so proud of the fans. I'm so proud of Mike Norvell to put the game plan together. And
I was going to say Trent Jacobs, he asked if the 188 yards, how many of that was Tofili. The 188 yards is what Florida State's defense held the entire Louisville offense to. 188 yards. Florida State had 219 total yards, and of that 219, Tofili had 118 yards. But Florida State held Louisville's offense to 188 yards. Yes, and they held their first team all ACC running back under 77 yards. He had 52 yards on 14 carries. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And going back to what you say, listen, again, we say it again, there has never been in the college football playoff history a Power 5 undefeated conference champion left out. Florida State is in. Florida State is in. And guess what? And I know your wife is going to be sad to hear this, but Georgia is out. Alabama is out. You cannot put Alabama over Texas. They have the head-to-head. So it's going to go Michigan, Washington, Florida State, Texas. That's it. Sorry, SEC. You were terrible in the non-conference this season. You don't deserve to be in. Go Florida State. Dominant performance. They won. All the talking heads, everybody was talking trash all week, including today. I mean, you got Greg Sankey, Slunky, whatever his name is from the SEC, talking about this is reality. The SEC is the best conference in the world. Yeah, well, your best team couldn't get it done when they needed to get done. They're done. Go home.
I'm glad you're saying it, Michael, because she has to drive me home. She has to drive me home. So, I'm gonna plead the fifth on that. But yes, man. Like, I think this was a good enough win. You talk about Florida State goes to a neutral site environment in a championship game and gets a win over a top 15 team.
Yep, top 15.
Where you now absolutely you shut them down.
Right.
And I don't see any way that they get left out of the playoffs now. Now, Texas had a big win. They beat number 20 Oklahoma State, but you beat a higher ranked team.
Correct.
With literally a freshman quarterback in the game. And I understand a lot of the guys, and this is something we talked about in the Florida game. Those guys were 2 of 10 on contested catches. We saw Morlock have a crucial drop. We saw Keon have 2 crucial drops. They did not drop. Right. They did not help that freshman quarterback out. But I think what is important is the fact that Mike Norvell was able to scheme things up when you talk about the Wildcat, what they were able to do with them. And it was one of those games where this is something we've seen typical of Florida State, where they pound and they pound and they pound and they wait for one to break. And they finally found that mismatch.
Yeah. And then
we
said that in the preview. Just keep going. Don't quit.
Yep, and that's exactly what happened with that Toa Philly run down the sideline where they were able to get into a scoring position. And man, it
73
was like,
yards.
and Ryan Fitzgerald, like, I know he wasn't perfect tonight, but shout out to him for getting the points that you needed.
Yep.
Because you made it enough. And it was, man, again, it was like once they got that last field goal, it's like, man, if they just get this, it is over. And that defense was lights out. And I think that's really what you have to focus on here. I understand the offensive performance wasn't great, but you have to understand that Tate is going to be back next game. And it's just this defense, man. This is a championship level defense. Here's the thing. You allow Ohio State to get in. You allow a Michigan team to get in. Or of course they lost, so they're not in right now. But you had them in because of their defense.
Correct.
We need to put some respect on Florida State's friggin' defense because the offense. You now here's the thing. You have a month to get Tate in rhythm. You have a month to get this offense together on the same page.
You have a month to get all the injured players back or back to at least 90% health.
Big facts. And this is the defense that is lights out. And man, that just the play from the linebackers, the play from the defensive line, the play from the secondary. I mean, it's just an absolute championship level defense. And if you can get the offense to play at a similar level when you get Tate comfortable and you get him back. Man, I just really think it says so much. I'm sorry about the noise.
No, we love it. That's
again,
fans.
Exactly. Again, we're here in Charlotte, man. We're just having a good time. I'm having so much fun. I'm so
Jesse,
excited.
Jesse, I love Trent Jacobs' comment about the ACC officials. They only called 3 penalties on us, and all 3 were warranted. The only thing they missed was that targeting call on Brock Glenn. It was a clear target. He literally put his shoulder into the helmet. That should have been targeting.
It was the same thing that you saw in Florida with Tate Rodemaker.
Was
Trent, please don't do that.
Trent, don't do that, brother.
please don't do that. But yeah, man, I really do think that, like, and in case y'all are wondering, this is what the comment is, but let's not do that. But yeah, man, I really do think like this is the definition of a team win. This is the definition of a team win. A dominant defense. Really, special teams didn't do much tonight. They were more of a hindrance than a help, but you found a way to score enough points. And I thought it'd be 27-24. I thought it'd be a low-scoring defensive battle. I didn't think it'd be quite this. No. Nah. Let me say something here to Brandon. We don't want picks of that.
Picks.
We don't want picks of that. I promise you. But man, it was so much fun, man. Like this is the first time we've been back since 2014. I've talked about this all week. Like I live 45 minutes from Bank of America Stadium. So we're up here, we're at the game, we're having fun. But I was nervous, man. Like I thought I had heard throughout the week that Tate was going to start. And when right before the game, you had texted me that it looks like it's going to be Brock. I was like, okay, man, I was a little nervous. I'll be honest, man. I thought early in the game, I thought they should have let him open things up a little bit more. I thought they should have let him throw it a little bit more. Now, it doesn't matter who's the quarterback when your receivers are dropping every other pass.
Correct.
But I thought they could have opened things up a little bit more with the pass to open up the run because Louisville knew what we were doing. They had single high safety, 8 or 9 guys in the box a majority of the night, and they forced Florida State to throw the ball to beat them. And Florida State really didn't throw the ball. But once you got that wildcat formation where you had 11 on 11 and you had that extra defender to defend, they were able to move the ball enough to get in scoring position.
Correct.
But man, I just really think that it comes down to this defense, and you have to respect that.
Yeah. Well, the only thing about that is, and I know we talked about this on the text message with each other about opening up the offense. The only thing is, like at the time, I agreed with you. I was like, yeah, we need to throw the ball, but then. They ran like this split zone action, like play action fake, where the tight end lined up here, and then once they hiked the ball, he went across the line out. Now they put Johnny Wilson in that tight end slot, and they ran him across the line, and Glenn was coming off the fake on the roll, and Johnny's wide open. Wide open. And Brock is just staring down the field like, dude, the play was supposed to go there. So I could totally see how Mike Norvell looks at that and says, yeah, I can't trust him to make. And then, so not even just that, there was another one later on in the game, Keon, wide open on the flat. Literally probably could have picked up a first down. And he missed them. And then, of course, you had the two throws where, one basically slips out of the guy's hand, another one down the field. He's looking at Morlock, and the linebacker stayed with him and almost had, literally should have picked that ball off and dropped it. I think once you get to that point, even I on Madden would not be throwing the ball anymore.
I know. And I think Mike Norvell, you could tell that when he was not in plus field position, he was really being safe.
Really
I think he wanted, right, exactly. I think he wanted to really just avoid the freshman mistakes.
Yeah.
I think he wanted to, let's just, as long as we're in this game. Now, I feel like if Florida State would have got down, they probably would have, they obviously would have had to pass the ball. But I feel like as long as they were in the game and defense kept them in that, that they were fine with running the ball. They were fine with waiting until something broke through because honestly, man, I think the biggest thing in this game is they won the field position battle a majority of the night. They stayed in plus territory a majority of the night. And I
love Trent's comment. Brock underthrew all night. Yes, he so many short arm throws, but he said the receivers couldn't catch COVID tonight.
They really couldn't. And man, like
they really couldn't.
That's what's so tough is when you have a freshman quarterback in there and you have guys that aren't necessarily helping him by dropping the ball, because there were some really crucial drops in this game.
Oh, yeah.
But Michael, I just can't say enough about this defense. I know people love to, pardon my French, to give Adam full of shit, but come on, man.
Let's talk about this. Let's just read off some of these stats to you, okay? Braden Fisk, 9 total tackles, 5 on his own, 4.5 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks. Patrick Payton, 7 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a sack. Jared Verse, 6 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Fabian Lovett, 2 total tackles, but he was taking on a lot of double teams for Braden Fisk. 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack. Just all over. Ricardo Green, who I think Trent said earlier, basically played first round NFL draft game tonight. Boy had 3 pass breakups. Just all over them. That one throw where they ran an RPO and the receivers going into the end zone. Just knocked it right out. Gosh, that's a touchdown if he doesn't do that. They were just glued up. Thrash had a couple catches. I think we held Thrash to Thrash had 7 receptions for 57 yards. That's their best receiver. That's all they could get. They couldn't get anything else. They made Jack Plummer. He was 14 of 36, 111 yards, 1 interception, and sacked 7 times. I'm telling you, just the best performance I've seen probably from Florida State's defense. Obviously 99 and 2013 were great, but this was probably the best single game performance I've seen from Florida State in my lifetime.
Yeah, man. You had to rely on the defense in this one, and they came through when it mattered the most. Man, Braden Fisk made himself some money tonight. If we're being honest.
He did.
He really did. You already knew he was really good, but the performance he had tonight, I think, really earned him some money against a Louisville offensive line that's not bad. And a Louisville offense that's not bad in any kind of way. And
correct.
I think that's just something that we've seen from this team as the defense has gotten, later in the season. They've been dominant in a lot of games. And what was important with this one, which is something that we talked about in the preview, was that you didn't get off to necessarily a slow start. You didn't get into a hole that you couldn't dig yourself out of.
Right.
And Florida State was able to stay ahead, for the whole game. And I think that was huge. And I like that hypnotic. We have a comment here on YouTube that says time to get healthier for this playoff run. And I think that's a big thing too. You're going to have Tate, who's going to be back again. I think people forget that. People will try and come on and poo on Florida State for, maybe scoring 16 points against Louisville's defense or whatever. But again, this is for all intents and purposes, roughly a top 25 defense when you look at a bunch of different metrics. And so the fact that you were able to shut that offense down and score enough to win, knowing you're going to get your second string quarterback, well, I guess he's your starting quarterback now, but you're going to get Tate back. You're going to get healthy again. You're going to get your offensive lineman back. You're going to get Darrell Jackson back for the playoffs. You're going to be healthy.
Oh, man. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget that probably the best defensive lineman, not the ends, the line, hasn't played all season, and now we get him back. Oh, my goodness.
Right. You had an absolute dominant performance from your defensive line tonight, and you get another guy who's 6'6", 300 and like 50 pounds or something like that has experience that's going to be back. And so when you look at this one, it's still kind of up in the air. I mean, Washington wins over Oregon. Yeah, Michigan, I'm not sure what the final score ended up being, but they were pretty far ahead of Iowa. So they did end up winning?
Yep, 26-0.
So you have Michigan's in. You have Washington is in. The SEC still up in the air. We'll have to see. I think Texas got a big win here. I don't know what's going on back here. It sounds like a spaceship is taking off. I'm not really sure what's going on back there. But, man, I really do like – I don't know what's going on back here. But when you talk about the teams that deserve to be in, I think you really have to give it to – one of the spots has to go to Florida State. I really do think so because, man, you talk about a team that early in the season won a lot of their games with the offense, and then late in the season they won a lot of their games with their defense. And so if you're able to get Tate back and you're able to pick up a little bit better offensive performance – it sounds like somebody might be doing a burnout behind me on a motorcycle. I'm really not sure. I'm not sure if we're like at a biker rally or whatever, but I don't know what's going on back there. But, man, I just really do think Florida State deserves a shot in the playoffs. I think they've earned it. Like you talked about before, you've had 11 years of case study to show that undefeated Power 5 conference champions made it into the playoffs. I don't see how you can argue Florida State is going to be out of this because you still have playmakers. I know they didn't really step up tonight. But, again, that defense did step up when it mattered. And if you get Tate back and you can get another month to get these guys on the same page, because you do have to think about, too, I mean, how often has Brock Glenn thrown to these receivers? The timing is not there yet. That chemistry is not there yet. And, and I think, again, you talk about – let's take some comments here. Like Kim says that, this is the best defensive performance that she has seen. And I think that, man, I mean, it was really, really just an absolute dominant performance. And you have to take your hat off to this defense. You have to take your hat off to Adam Fuller for what they did tonight because you knew, we talked about this in the preview. You're going to have to lean on this defense. Yeah. And they came through when it mattered most. And so, they say defense wins championships. And Florida State's defense won them a conference championship. Yeah. Of course, they still have to go on to win the national championship if that's in the cards for them. But the defense won you a conference championship tonight. Yes, and again, you have a month to get your quarterback back, to get him on the same page, to get Tate back and get him healthy and get this whole team healthy. And, man, I think they're in. I think this is huge. I think, we talked about this before. No matter what happens after this, I think people have to understand how important this was for this program, how big this was for this program to come out and win the first ACC championship, the first conference championship since 2014. For them to get this win is absolutely massive because this was goal number one for them. Yeah, early in the season. Obviously, I feel like after this, because you don't have your starting quarterback, you're playing with house money.
That's right.
You just have to be happy. And I also want to say one thing. Jordan was there. He was in North Carolina most of this week. He had a surgery up here. He was on stage with the team. Just what a special moment. The crowd was cheering Jordan Travis. Yeah. Yeah. It was such a special moment for him to be able to be there and experience it with his guys. Man, I don't have a whole lot to say about the stats and everything because I have to go back and look at the numbers. Yeah. But, man, just from being in the stadium and watching this team, really just, man, they never like backed off. They stayed steady. They believed that they could win the whole time. They never got shook or whatever. They never looked rattled. They just kept fighting, and they were able to get the win. And, man, that's really what matters the absolute most is this team found a way to win. Yeah. That's really something that we talked about in our preview. I felt like the difference in this game was when you talk about Louisville lost to Kentucky at home in that rivalry
Yep.
game. Florida State found a way to win on the road against
Yep.
Florida. A similar situation. This was a game Florida State found a way to win. Louisville did not. That was the
Yep.
difference in the game. And you know, when you talk about a team that consistently finds a way to win, whether it be offense, whether it be defense, whether it be a special team spark, that wasn't the
Yeah.
case tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Florida State is a well-rounded team. They're a
Yeah.
balanced team, and that should count for something when you talk about the playoff conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. It really should. And, you know, I just read here on ESPN that Heather Dinich, who's supposed to be like the college football playoffs version of Joe Lunardi, she projects that Michigan's number 1, Washington's number 2, Texas is number 3, Bama's 4, Georgia's 5, and FSU is 6. That's what she's projecting right now. And I'm just like, I don't understand. Okay, I get that the fact that FSU struggled on offense, but they're undefeated. They've won every game. They've won every single game. Every game that was put before them, they won. They won the ACC Championship. They're a Power 5 team. They should not be left out of the playoffs. And I mean, it's just it's her own projection, but it's just frustrating that they're still going after this.
Well, Heather Dennis can eat a fat sack of you know what, because she was the same one who said Florida State is not back because LSU is not back, and
Right.
LSU went on to win the SEC West that same year that Florida State beat them. So honestly, I mean, again, pardon my French, you guys. I've had a few frothy beverages here. I don't give a shit about what Heather Dennis has to say, because Florida State earned their way in. They are undefeated, Power 5 champion. They have won games with offense. They have won games with defense. It would be one thing, Michael, if you had proven over the past few years since the playoffs have come out that no matter what you want to say, because I think Florida State is one of the best 4 teams in the country when you talk about the defense and how they are on both sides of the ball. You can talk about the best 4 teams in the country, but at the same time, that has not been the standard since the playoff has started. It's been the 4 most deserving teams, and Florida State again is one of the 4 most deserving teams.
And how can I just don't understand how you're going to punish Florida State because of something they could not control. They could not control that North Alabama linebacker falling on Jordan Travis' leg. They could not control Florida playing like the dirty Gators they are and knocking our quarterback out. They couldn't control that. They couldn't control that now you have to play a third string true freshman on a championship game. You know what they could control? Shutting out one of the best offenses in the country, shutting out one of the best teams in the country, playing the best defensive performance we've seen all season. And you can't talk about Michigan. Oh, look what they did to Iowa. They shut Iowa. Iowa is the worst. Their offense is worse than Florida State with Brock Glenn at quarterback. I mean, it's terrible. They couldn't even score a point. We at least scored 16 points. So, I mean, I just find it crazy that this is still a talking point. Florida State has already proven that they are one of the best 4 teams and most deserving teams to be in the playoff. Look, if you put Florida State in and they go get beat by somebody, fine. Okay, you're right all along. But you know what? You're not right now. You got to give them the chance. They played the schedule. I love what Mike Norvell said. Mike Norvell said when they asked him, why should your team be? He said, look, there are a lot of great teams out there with a lot of great abilities and have done a lot of great things, but they've lost, and we haven't.
Exactly. And winning all your games should – but winning all your games should matter. And that's really is the real thing. And, I mean, of course you don't want it to happen. I don't think it's going to be the case. But if Florida State goes into the playoffs and, say they get dogged or whatever, they earn the right to do that. I mean, TCU was no different last year. And so, that's why I'm just I'm not worried about the talking heads say, the committee has consistently kind of heard that argument, but went in their own direction. And so that's why I feel like Florida State is going to be able to get in, because, I mean, Oklahoma State was number 20, but Oklahoma State they're not really a great team. So I don't think that win was any really better than what you put up. And
Yep.
again, man, you have to think about like all these teams that went into championship conference, selection Saturday, as they like to call it, with their full strength, with their starting quarterbacks, with all their playmakers available.
Yep. Yep.
Florida State didn't do that. They went into
Yep.
this game with a true freshman, not a redshirt freshman, who had missed a lot of the season with a hand injury. We know he tore a ligament in his non-throwing hand. He missed a lot of the season, and they still were able to come in and get the win. So
Yeah.
I think it speaks to this team that you can overcome that adversity, that you can face that level of adversity and still go in and win the ACC championship. Man, they can just be pissed off. I really don't care. Florida State's getting in. I think we'll have to go find old Boo or something like that.
That's right. That's right.
If they don't let them in. But again, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I will say it's going to be interesting because will the SEC get left out? Will Bama make it in? It's going to be hard to say there. We'll have to see. I'll be sweating a little bit on Selection Saturday. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But man, I just feel like you win all your games. You're 13-0. You won the ACC championship. You've won games with your offense. You've won games with your defense.
You've won games with special teams.
Exactly. And so to me, I really do not see how you leave Florida State out of this. And
that's right.
Because, man, again, I mean, no one gave TCU a shot against Michigan.
Correct.
And they went in and won that, and they went in and won that game.
Correct.
Exactly. And so now you really never
know. No one gave Ohio State in 2015 a shot when their third string quarterback Cardale Jones they were gonna play Alabama. They were gonna play Alabama. And what they do? They went in there and beat them and then ended up winning the national champion. So if you're going to do that for them, that's a precedent you set that you're willing to look at a team that's undefeated and say, look, they went undefeated. They beat every team that was put in front of them. Yes, they're down to their second string quarterback because they'll get him back in in a month. They'll get him back at least for sure. And that defense is a championship level defense. And when that offense is humming, if they have a quarterback that knows the offense and can run it, that offense can score points. So they deserve to be in. They're undefeated Power 5 conference champion that hasn't lost.
Exactly. And I do want to touch on here one of the comments that we have, and the Awesome Clips says that our coach should have called a better game and our O-line should have showed up a little bit better. And he said later on he's just venting. So I get it.
He's a Louisville fan. Okay.
It's all in fun. Oh, is it Louisville? Okay.
Yeah, he's a Louisville fan.
Okay, because I was going to say, man, like I feel like when you talk about Mike Norvell, I thought he played it a little bit safe tonight. I thought, if you were going to roll with a freshman, I thought you got to kind of live and die by that freshman. I thought you should have aired it out a little bit more just to back that defense off because we saw them load the box against us. But I think Louisville didn't really have the greatest game plan either, man. I think they should have tried us. I think they should have tried the ball a little bit downfield more because Florida State's defensive line really came to play.
They did. They tried some deep passes. I mean, there was one, I think, their first deep pass. That was their best shot at it. It went off his fingertips. It was Green. Yeah, Green had just gotten. No, I'm sorry. It was Azaria Thomas. The receiver had a step on him, and it was right off his fingertips. I think that was the best deep shot they had all game. They didn't try. Yeah, you're right. They didn't try many others after that. And it almost felt like Jeff Brom took away the deep pass because he felt like they couldn't protect Plummer longer than what we needed to get those shots off. Because, I mean, literally, he'd hike the ball and he might have a second or he might have had 2 seconds, I would say, before there was somebody already in his face, whether Braden Fisk or Jared Verse or Pat Payton or Fabian Lovett or even Malcolm Ray, all those guys, they were literally living in the backfield. As Awesome Law said, he said that our defensive line made their offensive line look like how they made Notre Dame's offensive line look. So, I mean, it was just a dominant performance by the defensive line. It's probably why you didn't see a lot of the deep shots later on. What I thought was key was there was one play where I was sitting on the couch and I said, they're going to run a screen here because this would be screen territory right here. And they ran it and they got a big play out of it. And I was just so frustrated. I was like, Adam Fuller, if Michael who doesn't do this for a living knows there's a screen coming. Darn gone it, you should know there's a screen coming. But then the next play, we get like back-to-back stats, and I'm like, okay, you know what you're doing there. But yeah, man, it was just a dominant performance by the defense. And to go back to the Mike real quick, the Mike Norvell play call. Again, I thought that early on, I agreed that, man, I was like, they should open this up. At least give us some more screens. Now, I'll just tell you right now, there was only one. I think they called 4 screens that were like running back screens. They called like 3 or 4 screens out wide that we had asked for. Remember, we said, man, you need to throw some out wide screens. And they were getting about 4 or 5 yards on those screens. Those running back screens, outside of one that broke for, I think, like 7 or 8 yards, they were being blown up. I mean, we almost had a fumble on one of them. So I was actually glad that he went away from that, because Louisville was waiting for it all game. They were ready for that. So
yeah, and I do want to say, man, like, I know they didn't have the greatest night, but I do feel like some people overlooked this Louisville team. I think Louisville was not a bad team by any means. And, we have obviously a Louisville fan in the comments, and Jeff Brom's a really good coach. And for the fact that you guys got here in year
Head
one,
of schedule.
Exactly. Like, once he gets his guys in, he's going to be a problem. I don't know if Florida State is going to be in the ACC or the Big Ten, by the time we have this, maybe a rematch or something like that. But I do think that, like, again, man, I know Louisville didn't play the hardest schedule this year, but I think you have to realize that is, by all means, a top 15 team who is balanced on both sides of the ball. They are really a really decent team. I mean, it's not like, I'm not going to say they're a top 10 team, when you talk about losing to Kentucky and Pitt, but that's a good team. And they're just young. They have to, in the system anyway, as far as that goes, they have some experience, but they're a young team in the system in year one under the new head coach. Jeff Brom has got that program rolling.
Yep.
And I think that speaks more to what Florida State did, the fact that they were able to beat a top 15 team when he had adversity at your back. I mean, you had so many things to overcome in this game. You had the rain, you had the freshman quarterback and things like that. And, I think Florida State really went out and earned this win. It was a hard fought game. And, man, I'm just like, I really feel like Florida State earned this one tonight. They earned that playoff spot. They earned that ACC championship. And, man, I just want to overly stress to everybody watching that I don't know what's going to happen in the playoffs. We don't know. But you should not undersell the fact that this team went out and won the ACC championship, which included beating a Florida team in the last game of the season on the road with a backup quarterback. Then you come into the ACC championship and you win that with a third-string quarterback.
Right.
Like, it cannot – there cannot be enough said about what Florida State has had to overcome to get this win. And, man, I mean, what a gritty performance. I'm so happy for Mike Norvell. Like, now, here's the thing, too, man. Like, you see how much this win is going to do for Florida State. Like, the fact that they came in and they won this, it's going to be big for recruiting. It's going to be big for this program. It's going to be big going forward. It's going to snowball into a lot of things. And, again, man, I just really feel like there's no way that you can leave them out. And I feel like even if they get, to the playoffs and they lose, this is still a very successful season. The fact that you were able to go and get this win, because, we'll always kind of wonder what could have been if Jordan Travis had been available. If he had not got hurt, you probably don't think the game was really this close. I mean, if you had this kind of defensive performance and you had Jordan Travis, who knows, man? Maybe you run away with things. But again, I think whether or not Florida State goes into the playoffs and wins, they deserve to be there.
They deserve to be there.
I do want to take one comment from Chad Clemens. He said some chick on ESPN just estimated
Heather Dinich.
The 60. We talked about that. We did talk about that a little bit. Everybody's got their opinion. And, the old saying, I'll spare you the language here, but like they say, everybody's got opinions are like a-holes. Everybody's got one. You don't want to see it all the time. So nobody cares about that. But I do want to say shout out to Chad. I did actually get to meet up with him at the game tonight. I've been friends with him for basically my whole life. I grew up playing football with his brother, so it was nice to connect with some people tonight. Man, I ran into, I don't know if she watches this or not, but shout out to Michaela Edenfield.
Oh,
FSU softball player.
Yeah.
I'll have to text you the picture. I ran into her walking out of the game, and she said she had heard of planting the spear before, so super stoked about
Nice.
that. That was pretty cool, man. I ran into the goldfish tonight. Kind of
Yay.
like just kind of ran into everybody, man. But
Let's go.
it was so much fun. So really enjoyed getting to like catch up with some folks and getting to meet some people tonight. It was so much fun. I'm glad the rain held off. The weather was
Yeah.
actually, man, it was perfect tonight. Like
Yeah.
the weather was great. I know everybody was worried about it being cold and rainy. I was too. But it was a great night for football, man. It was so exciting. Again, Michael, I just I can't say enough about what this team did to go out and win this game. You know, because you like really you think a few years back, Florida State was a team that they found a way to lose. It seemed like, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like a few years
Yeah.
ago. And this is a
Yep.
team now that when their
Finding ways to
backs are
win.
against the wall, they
Yeah.
find a way to
They just
win. And
respond. Respond.
exactly. And they find a way to win week in and week out. And to me, that's why you have to put them in the playoffs, because
Yep.
when you're a team that finds a way to win, whether it be offense, whether it be defense, whether it be a special teams play, whether it be coaching advantage,
Right.
whatever the case may be, you find a way to win.
That's right.
Man, they deserve a chance.
Yep.
And that's why I'm just so excited for this team, man. I was I was so nervous, bro. I'm gonna be honest, man.
We
Like
all were. We all were.
I was nervous with you. It was like when Brock came out, I was like, man,
Yeah.
it's been fun, but
Yep.
man,
It's
I
been
mean,
fun. And the
it's
fun
been
continues.
and it
Hey,
continues.
what have I said? I've said that listen, a win is a win is a win, right? In order to go 4-0, you got to go 2-0. Now, in order to go 4-0, you get a chance to go 3-0.
Facts. You are 2-0 out of the 4 games that you have to win. And you know, I think the one thing I do want to point out when you talk about here with his comment, awesome Lawson Clip says FSU has their swagger back. All the media hate has seemed to help. It's true, man. Like when it's Florida State against the world, we saw
That's right.
a lot of the money at one point when we did our
Went to
preview show.
Louisville.
It was like 91%. All the talking heads are pooing on Florida State, trying to talk them
Yep.
out of the playoffs.
Yep.
That's how you know they're back. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like that's how they know they're back. And he's right. Unfortunately, the media hate is about to get way worse.
Oh yeah.
They're going to try to spin this like Florida State doesn't have an offense or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
But I do think you have to understand that again, Tate Rodemaker will be back if you make it into the playoffs. And yeah, it would have been nice to see him in this game to kind of know what he has, you know, in his you know, skill set or whatever. Like you wanted to see him have another game after that Florida game where he did struggle a little bit. But again, you have a month to get him healthy. You have a month to get him on the same page. So I expect this offense to take a step forward. I don't think you're going to see quite the same, you know, things going forward against Louisville. But
well, here's what I'll say to that. At the end of the day, aren't we grateful that this decision about who gets in and who doesn't get in isn't determined by media hate or Twitter or X or whatever the talking heads want to say. This decision is determined by those people in the room. They're locked in a room.
100%.
You know, proverbially, they're locked in a room. They don't have outside influences. Greg Schlenky, Schlalaki, whatever his name is, he can't walk into that room and try to stomp for the SEC, right? They can't do that. Those people are in that room. There are precedent. There are protocols that they have to follow, and those protocols and those precedents say FSU deserves to be in. Point blank.
Yeah, they don't want to let me in that room because I'm telling you, old Boo ain't leaving until we get in there. Exactly. But yeah, man, I think at the end of the day, like you said, the decision is not made by the talking heads. The decision is made by the committee. And I think what was so significant was seeing Florida State being put back at 4 this week. You know, you had they've heard the argument from Kirk Herbstreit and from Reese Davis and all these people who have argued that Florida State doesn't deserve to be in there. They still went against that. And they still put Florida State in the top 4. And I think that is very significant because they've shown that they don't really care what the talking heads say. They understand that they had the protocols and they have to do things a certain way. And the fact that they already put him in the top 4. Now you have Oregon, who's been basically eliminated. They're a 2-loss non-conference championship. They're out. Obviously there's some pieces that are up in the air when you talk about Alabama. And I saw someone that I saw a Twitter page that tweeted like Alabama or Georgia is eliminated from the playoffs. That's probably the case.
Yeah.
That's probably the case. Uh, but we don't know yet. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
They still have to make the decision. I think when you talk about a close game against Auburn, they trailed at halftime against South Carolina. I think that you have to respect the fact that Florida State won all their games, because at the end of the day, man, like, you can talk about how teams win games.
Yeah.
You can talk about the way teams win, where they win, who they win with.
Yep.
The fact that you won all your games, that you didn't lose, that has
Yep.
to stand for something.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the Hypnotic says here, let them all cry. We're in. Big facts.
Big facts.
Big facts. Because like if the SEC gets left out, oh man, this might be the last year of the playoffs. Who knows? They might just cancel the whole season because the SEC didn't get in.
It's just, but isn't there? Okay, if you look at this right now, this is why I said last year that they should have gone to the 12-team playoff this year, because you knew it had a chance for this kind of chaos, right?
Yeah.
And so next year this won't be a problem. Next year, you can have 1 to 2 losses and win your conference championship as a Power 5 and still have a chance to get in. So, but listen, again, I'll say it one more time, is that Florida State is an undefeated Power 5 conference champion with 3 wins against college football playoff ranked teams: Louisville, Clemson, and LSU. The only team to play LSU and shut them down, basically, outside of like a garbage time touchdown against our third stringers. Held that offense and the basically eventual Heisman Trophy winner, Jaden Daniels, to 17 points. Walked into Clemson, where no one has beat them in a long time, and beat them. They have not lost at home since. And beat a Louisville-ranked team with our third-string quarterback and the most dominant defensive performance I've seen in my lifetime for an FSU defense. 3 ranked teams, undefeated, Power 5, conference champion. They're in. I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care what Heather Dinich says. I don't care what any of the talking heads, Kurt Hershey, Alabama alumni, Reese Davis. I don't care what any of y'all say.
Exactly. And I think that the good thing about what you saw in this game is when you talk about that LSU game and you talk about what they did against that LSU offense, by the way, the number 1 offense in the country in college football, and the way they shut them down. Everybody gave that lame-ass excuse that, it's game 1 for LSU.
Yep.
Well, it was also game 1. It was game 1 for them too. But now you see Florida State, it wasn't like a one good performance from this defense. They also came back, and now you talk about this game against Louisville, who obviously they're not LSU's offense, but it's a good offense. You talk about like playmakers like Jamari Thrash and the 2 running backs they have, who are very good. And, Florida State was able to have another dominant performance. So now you've had 2 this season. You shut down the number 1 offense in college football. Right. Now, I won't say shut them down. But you held them to 17 non-garbage time points. Right. And then now you hold another top 30 offense to 6 points. So this is at the beginning of the season, you were playing well. At the end of the season, you were playing well.
Yep.
And so I think that speaks to what this defense has done. It wasn't like a fluke. It wasn't like a one-time thing. It wasn't like, it's just Jaden Daniels' first game, or things like that. And to me, I think that really speaks to what this defense has done this season. And, again, you talk about getting Darryl Jackson in the playoffs. You talk about getting healthy in the playoffs for this defense. And then you get your quarterback back. I just think, again, man, I think Florida State is very well deserving to get in. Yeah. They're ACC champions. They're 13-0. And, again, man, it was just it was a wonderful performance by this team. And I'm just so proud. I'm so proud of them, man, because, again, their backs were against the wall. They had all the adversity. They had every reason to not win this game. You talk about a true freshman quarterback, and they were able to get it done. So, man, it's just an awesome night, man. You just have to enjoy the moment. You really just you have to take it all in. You have to appreciate where we're at, especially when you talk about the last few years where Florida State was, where they came from. Yeah. And man, you just have to take it all in and enjoy it, because it was really, really a fun night here in Charlotte. And the fans showed up, the crowd showed up, the team showed up, and they got the win, man. They're 13-0.
Got the win. Let's go.
Like, how awesome is it that we're 13-0? And somebody said if you guys had Travis, yeah, man. I mean, dude, if they had Jordan Travis, you feel like you could go out and win a national championship, especially if like a team like Georgia doesn't make it.
Right.
But I still like anytime you have a defense like this, no matter who you go against, you feel like you can win the game.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, you're going to need more from your offense in the playoffs. You have to. But again, you're going to have him back. You're going to have Tate back. You're going to have that quarterback back. And it's nothing against Brock Glenn. That's not to say Brock Glenn had a bad night.
Yep.
When you talk about guys that didn't step up in the moment and catch a lot of the passes that he had. But I mean, again, you're talking about putting a true freshman in a conference championship game. How many times does that happen?
Yeah.
And the team still goes out and wins. It's not very often against a top 15 team. So, yeah, man, that like they say, defense travels.
Yeah.
And so this defense is someone who is going to be able to go on the road and play well.
Yeah.
This defense is going to go with you. And again, you have you're going to get Darrell Jackson back too. So, man, I'm just again, man, I cannot express how happy I am, how excited I am. Again, we were sweating it out for a minute, man.
We're sweating it out. But you know what? We got the win. FSU did it. And now we'll wait the college football committee's decision. FSU should be in. It'll be a crying shame. We'll revolt if they're not in, but they should be in. I feel confident that
I do too. I do too. Because like you said, man, the precedence has been set for 11 years. They have what did I have to do for these beads? Hey man, what happens in Charlotte stays in Charlotte. We'll just leave it at that. But
let's wrap it up.
Yeah, I do feel like man, again, I feel like Florida State did enough to deserve to be in the playoffs. And again, man, no matter what happens going from here on out, here's the thing, and we'll get ready to wrap this up. Florida State is the ACC championship. They're the ACC champion. They're going to the Orange Bowl regardless.
Yes, they are.
Regardless. So you've won a conference championship. You have beat your rivals. You went undefeated. And you're now going to a New Year's Six bowl game. We're confident that they're going to get into the playoffs.
Yes.
And we feel like they're going to have a good chance in the playoffs because you're going to have a team that has a month to get healthy. You're going to get Tate back. You're going to get Darrell Jackson. And you have a defense that's playing lights out right now that is playing better than they have all season. They're peaking at the right time.
Yep.
And so regardless, man, I feel like you have to really just step back and enjoy the season for what it is to start with. And then you also have to just be excited about the playoffs because, no matter what happens, man, who would have thought, Michael, like who would have thought you'd be in the ACC championship with Brock Glenn, who was committed to Ohio State?
Yeah.
What, 11 months ago, 10 months ago, and you would come out as a undefeated ACC championship, man. I mean, it's just, I'm so happy.
It's incredible. I'm so happy for him. I mean, here's the thing. People say he didn't do much. No, he did a lot. He didn't cost us the game.
Exactly. He did not make the freshman mistakes.
He did not make the freshman mistakes. I mean, he almost threw 2 picks, but that's different.
You got a little lucky there. You got a little lucky.
Hey. But you know what? He didn't make the freshman mistakes. He didn't cost us the game. And the defense stepped up. Toafili got the big runs. Benson had some big runs down at towards the end of that game there that kept the first down, run the clock. That defense was just lights out. Fitz was great, even though the one missed field goal, I mean, it was barely missed by anything. He still had 9 points. I thought outside the one punt that they had the blitz, they had the block on, and we weren't able to get it off though. Thought Mastromano did a great job today. He kept pinning him back. I thought Mike Norvell called a conservative but a clean game. I wasn't frustrated with any of his play calls per se. Obviously, I thought they did what they had to do to win. Mike Norvell always talks about respond. You could only respond to the adversity that was put in front of you. They did every single week. They responded. 13 different games. They responded. They won. They leave the stadium 13 different times with a W next to their name. That's all that matters. Conference
100%,
champion,
man.
Power 5, they win, they're in.
100%. And it's funny. I was telling a friend of mine that I was like, it's been such a magical season. I dread the day that we have to come on here and talk about things coming to an end. But it ain't tonight.
Ain't tonight.
Everybody sold their stock on Florida State, and guess what? You were wrong. Because Florida State still won. And, man,
That's
again, like, I'm just happy for the team. I'm happy for
Mike
Norvell. It really is the proof of concept is here now. I mean, you go out and you get your first conference championship after 8 years of not playing in the game, after being, 2 years ago, 5-7.
Yeah.
It really does speak to it. I think this is going to pay off in recruiting. This is going to pay off. There's going to be so many dividends going forward. But, man, again, as we roll to about an hour here, we're going to get ready to wrap this up. But, again, man, you just have to be happy for this team, this coaching staff. They have laid it on the line, and they earned this one tonight.
Yes, they did.
It was a great time in Charlotte. My voice is probably going to be gone tomorrow. I yelled the entire time. I didn't care who didn't like it around me or whatever. We pounded on the seats and everything, man. It's such a fun time. It was so nice to be back in Charlotte, back in the ACC Championship where we belong. And Florida State gets the win, man. Sometimes it doesn't matter how you win. It just matters that you win, and Florida State got the win. They're 13-0. They are ACC champions. And we will find out soon enough whether they are in the playoffs. We both feel good about that. But, yeah, man, I can't be happy enough. I can't be proud enough for this team.
That's right, Troy. We stand on business.
Standing on business tonight. Standing on business tonight. So, yeah, man, huge win for Florida State. Huge win for the Noles. And, man, you just gotta be happy right now to be a Florida State Seminole. And so with that, we will wrap it up. I appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, I'm glad that we were able to even do this live stream afterwards here. Yeah. Like I said, coming live from Charlotte, right outside the stadium. Still going a little bit crazy back here, but yeah, man,
make sure you guys like and subscribe.
Exactly. Like we appreciate you guys tuning in. We're having fun hanging out with you guys. Do like and subscribe to stay connected to PlantTheSpear.com. Check out our website. Check out all that stuff. Follow us on social media. We're going to be having some fun with this. We're going to be back with a rankings reaction because we know Florida State. We feel good about them making it in, but we're gonna have a rankings reaction when it does come out. But yeah, guys, again, man, just wrapping things up here from Charlotte. I don't know what else to say, Michael. Other than let's go Noles, man. I'm just so happy. I'm so happy. So yeah, man. I agree. And Chad, you had time to take a shower. It was a little wet, a little hot. Everybody thought it was going to be freezing cold and raining. Not quite. But, man, I'm just happy. So, Florida State gets the win 16-6. Probably not what we had on our bingo card.
They covered
for our score prediction. But and they covered. They covered last week against Florida. They covered this week against Louisville. It won't be talked about that way in the media. Oh, yeah. We know that. We know that.
So you know. Hey, if you listen to the Talking Heads, you guys, you FSU fans, if you listen to the Talking Heads, just remember, FSU is an undefeated Power 5 conference champion.
Facts. So don't worry about what they're saying. Only worry about what old Boo has to say the next edition of the rankings. So that's going to be it, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm coming live to you from Charlotte. Michael is coming from the house. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, thank you for joining us for our post-game show. Congratulations to Florida State Seminoles. Yes. Congratulations to Mike Norvell, this team, and the fan base on being the 2023 ACC champions, man. Here we are, 13-0. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. STATE.
Florida State. Florida State. Florida State.
Woo! With that, guys, we are going to wrap it up from Charlotte. Thank you so much for tuning in. Go Noles.